have to say it's been a minute since I've really engaged with an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but some of my more memorable movie-going experiences were seeing his movies with my friends in high school. And notice how I said memorable and not good, because I vividly remember walking out of the theater after seeing Lady in the Water and everyone just turning to each other and going, "What the hell was that?" And I hadn't really seen anything else that made sense, and not because I was like super scarred from seeing a bad movie or anything, I just really wasn't interested in much of it. Though I did catch back up on a lot of his more recent films within the last week, and I have to say that my first takeaway is just how much I love that Shyamalan goes for it every time. I mean, whether or not you like any of his movies, it's impossible to walk away from one feeling like he just phoned it in. And that absolutely applies to his newest film, Knock at the Cabin. If you're not familiar with it by now, essentially it's just about a couple and their young daughter whose vacation is interrupted by four strangers who insist that their family must sacrifice one of their own in order to prevent the rest of the world's population from being swallowed up by an impending apocalypse. It's really successful at grabbing a hold of you and not letting go. It provides enough tension and release to keep things from feeling too one-noted, but it's quickly paced and it never lingers too long in the quieter moments. It's confined mostly to the titular cabin, which lets the actors' performances take center stage, and I use that term intentionally because it does feel like a stage play for a majority of the runtime. Dave Bautista is excellent in this. Shyamalan described him as the only actor in the industry who could have played Leonard, and I completely understand why he feels that way. The plot of the film essentially hinges on his ability to keep everyone calm and focused on the task at hand despite what's happening inside or outside of the cabin. And whenever the mic is handed to him, he absolutely delivers. The combination of shame and disgust that oozes out of him as he's forced to reluctantly adhere to the driving premise of the film is palpable. And the incongruity of his size versus his demeanor holds the movie together in its most precarious moments. I mean, if the Leonard character doesn't work, the entire movie just collapses in on itself immediately. So while all of the performances were relatively good, as far as I'm concerned, it begins and ends with Bautista. There are ultimately two big questions the film asks of its characters. Number one, would you sacrifice a member of your family to save humanity? And number two, how far would you go to save humanity? And while those are intriguing questions, I'm not sure exactly what the intention is behind asking them. And maybe more importantly, I don't feel like the movie has anything specific to say about how any of its characters chose to answer those questions. A.O. Scott called this movie quasi-theological, and Stephanie Zacharek of Time called it cumbersomely preachy, and honestly I'm not sure we were even watching the same movie. Obviously it's touchy to try to get too far into this point without running into spoilers, but to me the film just seemed to go out of its way not to attribute anything happening on screen to belief in or consequences of any higher power whatsoever. And the big questions the film raises are ultimately personal questions, not religious ones. In this movie, it doesn't really matter why humanity is at risk. The point is that they are, and what are you going to do about it? Ultimately, I think that was a decision to keep the focus of the movie fairly narrow, and at an hour 40 runtime, it does that well. Again, the movie is very well paced, and Shyamalan ends the film as quickly and efficiently as he opens it. But ultimately, its refusal to dig into why exactly these four home intruders were so adherent to their beliefs, or why any of this would be happening at all, left me feeling just a little bit empty at the end. But you know what? That's fine. I didn't need a profound philosophical ending because that's not why I went to go see this film. I wanted 100 minutes of excellent, suspenseful filmmaking, and I absolutely got that. And while I'm calling out S-tier publications on their coverage of this film, can we talk about the framing of this headline? I mean, what does that even mean? Oh, did you really not like some of his more recent films that much? And you consider that a betrayal of your trust? Give me a break. The single defining characteristic of M. Night Shyamalan, from my perspective, is his sincerity. Like a major league slugger who steps up to the plate and swings for the fences every time, he's gonna strike out some of those times. And he absolutely has struck out in the past, do not get me wrong. But what I most admire about him is not that he keeps getting back in the batter's box, which he does, basically every 2 years without fail, but that each movie is approached from the same level of uncompromised commitment. After a run of failures, it would have been so easy to make a lighter, more sarcastic movie that winks at past failures and takes itself less seriously as a defense mechanism against future criticism. But he doesn't do that. And while I didn't leave the theater after seeing Knock at the Cabin with the same feeling of thematic satisfaction I did after watching The Sixth Sense or Signs, I did leave with the appreciation that comes with having witnessed a craftsman take his craft very seriously. And in the current filmmaking landscape where billion-dollar movies refuse to test any boundaries and can't afford to take any risks, I loved watching a movie that was inexpensive to make, capture my attention, and not take my viewership for granted. That's about all I have to say about Knock at the Cabin. I think you should definitely check it out and let me know what you think. Like me, even if the ending doesn't really land for you, I seriously doubt you'll regret the less than 2 hours you spent watching it. If you want more from me, I would check out a couple of these videos here, and for everyone else, I'm Tyler, and this was Film Session.